Okay, in this scribble class, we'll be looking at multiplying real numbers. I guess integers as well, but multiplying real numbers. The first thing to address is multiplication of zero. Well, we did that with addition and subtraction. We'll do that again with division too. One thing that's interesting, or the rule that you need to know when you're multiplying anything by zero, is that your answer, doesn't matter what you're multiplying, but your answer is equal to zero. So I got -5 times 0, 0. -4 times 0, it's going to be 0. Box times 0, this whole thing multiplied by 0, your answer is going to be equal to 0. So just watch for that in questions. Now, let's take a look at multiplying these numbers here. So at the top, I have positive numbers, and each one of them I'm multiplying by a constant 4. So here I have 3 times 4 is 12, 2, 1, 0. Notice I'm just going down by 1. So I thought that I would go down by another 1. So if I had 0, down by another 1 is -1, -2, -3, -4. If I'm multiplying by 4, it follows that the pattern is the same. So 3 fours are 12, 8, 4, 0. Notice that each time I'm going down by 4. So it follows that if I go down by 4 here, this should be -4. This will be -8. This will be -12. This will be -16. So each one of them went down by 4. Now when you look at the numbers, so I'm multiplying a negative number by a positive number, and I come up with a negative answer. Let's maybe look at a few rules that govern that. And one thing to say right off the bat is that your rules for addition, subtraction, multiplying, dividing are different. So here if I'm adding same signs, I add them, it'd be 12, I keep the sign. Here I'm going to change this minus to a plus, change this to a plus. If I'm adding different signs, the rule is you subtract them and you keep the larger number sign. So those are the rules we've seen before. When you're multiplying, it's a different set of rules. So this, because they're the same signs, I'm not going to keep that sign. If I'm multiplying, different rules. So you have to worry about the different rules. And here they are. So if you're multiplying two real numbers, decimals, fractions, whatever, if they're the same signs, then your answer is positive. If they're different signs, your answer is negative. Notice again that this is different, like I've said here, it's different than adding and subtracting. So you have to be careful with that. So let's try some at the bottom here. 3 times a -4. Are they the same signs? No, this one's positive, this one's negative. So it's not the same sign rule, it's got to be this one. Different signs, your answer is going to be negative. So positive times a negative is going to be negative. And then whatever 3 times 4 is. Here's another one. Minus times a minus, they're both the same sign. So the rule says if the same signs, your answer is going to be positive. And then figure out whatever 3 times 15 is. Okay, here's some to practice. Maybe pause and do these and see if you come up with the right answer. Okay, hopefully you tried those. Answer to this one, negative times positive is negative, 18. Positive and positive, same sign, your answer is going to be positive. Negative times a negative, same sign, the two negatives will cancel out, so your answer is positive. Here I have a negative times a positive, so my answer is negative, and then I multiply the numbers. So this would be 10 over 18. Oh, you could simplify this one so that it'd be negative 5 over 9. Okay, hopefully you're getting on to those rules. If you're dealing with multiple numbers together, then one trick that I've used is if they're same signs and it's positive, if I have a bunch of numbers, I just look for pairs of them. So here's 2 of them. They're both negative, so the answer to this thing is going to be positive. And then I can go and look at the other numbers. Basically what I do is I count up how many negative numbers I have. And if it's an even number, my answer is positive. If it's an odd number, my answer is negative. Let's try that. So these 2 negatives, a negative times a negative, those would cancel. Negative times a negative, that would cancel. So initially I had 4 negative signs. That's an even number, so my answer is positive. and then multiply whatever that comes out to. There's another one. Negative, oh, they're all negative. So these two negatives, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 negatives. That's an odd number, so my answer is going to be negative. You could do it this way too. 2 negatives, make a positive. 2 negatives, make a positive. There's no other negative to go on with this guy, so you're stuck with that negative. And then multiply it. 20, 40, 120. This one, negative times negative times negative. There's 3 negatives, so my answer is going to be negative. Or these two cancel out, I'm stuck with that one. Notice there's no adding or subtracting. It's different rules. And then I can go ahead and figure it out. I think this should come out to 10, oh no, 5 over 3. Negative 5 over 3. Okay, here's another example where you have to multiply numbers with exponents here, but you have to worry about where you plug things in, and just having negatives and raising to an exponent sometimes causes issues. So they say they want us to evaluate this expression and that expression, here they are, when x is equal to 2 and when x is equal to negative 2. Let's start with a positive 2. So for x equals a positive 2. So I have a bracket, minus, and then x. We've learned that whenever you have a variable, put a bracket in. Okay, all squared. Now we're saying x is 2, so I can put a 2 in right there. Okay, now just following this one, so in brackets here, I can do what's inside there. This would be a negative times 2, so that would just be a negative 2 inside, squared. Remember, the squared doesn't mean times by 2. It just means I have 2 of whatever is here. So this really means negative 2 times negative 2. Again, according to our multiplication rules, 2 negatives make a positive. So the answer to this would be a positive 4. Let's try that same question. Make it go down a bit. Same question. Where's my question? For x equals negative 2. For x equals minus 2. Again, lots of negatives are going to cause us some trouble. So a bracket, and then a minus, and then x, that's where I'm plugging something in, and then I have another bracket, square. So this time I'm plugging in a negative 2 right there. I'm going to change color. Negative 2. Okay, order of operations says to do whatever in the brackets first. So negative 1 times negative 2 is a positive 2 squared. And then 2 squared just means 2 times 2. That's a 2. Or 4. Okay, now, just in comparison, look at this one. Looks fairly similar to this, other than there's a bracket there. Those brackets make a difference. Let's just try for x equals 2 again. So for x is equal to 2. So I have a minus, and then I have an x. So I put brackets in, and then a square. And this time I'm plugging in a positive 2, so I'll put a 2 in right here. Now, the rule says brackets over exponents, divide, multiply, add, subtract. So in brackets, I don't have anything to do inside these brackets, so my next thing to do is to do an exponent. Now this exponent, in this case here, only applies to the 2. It doesn't apply to this negative sign. So if I wanted to rewrite this again, I could write it like this, a minus out front, and then there's a 2, and because of that squared, it means there's 2 of them. Notice that that's different than what I had over here. So the brackets are making a difference. So the answer to this, I could go negative 1 times 2 is negative 2, and negative 2 times a positive 4. There's only one negative sign, so I'm stuck with it. 2 times 2 is 4. See how that's different? Okay, maybe just, and you could go on and do x equals minus 2, but it's the same kind of concept. Okay, just a last kind of worded question that you could multiply integers with. Patient's body temperature decreasing by 0.15 degrees Celsius every minute. So if the starting temperature was 37, what would be their temperature after 20 minutes? So, I guess maybe let's just see what the change in temperature would be. So it's decreasing by 0.15. So that's negative 0.15. And they want to know how much for 20 minutes. So what the temperature change would be in 20 minutes. So 0.15 times 20, if you multiply that, I think that comes out to 3, if I'm not mistaken. So 3 degrees Celsius. And since it's negative, this will be negative. So your temperature would have dropped -3 or dropped 3 degrees Celsius in those 20 minutes. Now the question says what will be the temperature. So if you started at 37, then of course you'll subtract 3 to give you a body temperature of 34 degrees Celsius, which not a good thing. You need to get that warmed up. Okay, hopefully that gives you some practice, some information on multiplying real numbers. Just as a recap for the rules, if you have a negative times a negative, that's going to be a positive. If you have a negative times a positive, that'll be a negative. In other words, if you have 2 negatives, they cancel to make a positive. If you only have 1 negative, you're stuck with them. Okay, try some questions with that and then move on to dividing real numbers.